Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your council chambers for our regular council meeting for August the 12th. But before we start that, that's our open session. Council did start our meetings this evening at 5:15 in our closed session. So we're going to do our rise and report from that meeting, and then we'll go into our regular public meeting. So could I have a mover and a seconder, please, that we now rise and report from closed session at 7 p.m. Moved by Councillor Zanella, seconded by Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? That is carried. Next is item 4.3, and I had that moved by Councillor Waters and seconded by Councillor Fred Drodge, that the confidential direction. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got the wrong one. So Council 4.3 is actually moved by Councillor Drodge and seconded by Councillor Waters. My apologies. And now we'll open it up for questions, comments on this. Councillor Drodge.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just looking for a friendly amendment to the recommendation, if we could put it on the screen.
Actually, I think that's the recommendation is on the screen now.
Oh, sorry. I guess I should have read that. So there has been a recommendation change that the confidential direction to staff regarding 1155 Guilford Road, 278 Woodfield Road, 257 Beach Road, and 269 Maple Grove Drive, all known as Cooks Bay Marina. We're directing staff to oppose the application at the OLT and to be confirmed.
Thank you, Councillor Drodge. Just to add further to that, this is unusual for us to come out of a closed session with a recommendation, but this is an unusual application. This application, the public meeting, the statutory public meeting was held in 2022 prior to any of this council sitting here. So the applicant has now appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and while we cannot divulge anything, any discussions with external counsel, we wanted to just let this council have the opportunity to vote on this motion. So without further ado, I will ask all in favor of the recommendation. Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. And the next item is 4.4, and that was moved by Councillor Waters and seconded by Councillor Drodge. And this is the confidential information regarding a review of the town's expropriation options to address drainage in the area of concern be confirmed. And all those in favor of that recommendation? Any opposed? That is carried. And now we'll move to the confirming bylaw and adjournment at 7:04 p.m. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Drodge, Councillor Richardson, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone. So that concludes that meeting. So now we'll go to our regular council meeting from August the 12th, and I want to thank so many people for coming out. I would think you'd have something better to do on an August evening, but I'm so glad you're here. I'm really glad you're all here. Council had a bit of a break. We didn't have a public meeting, regular council meeting in July. That was the good news. The bad news is that our agenda this evening is 1,056 pages. And that's what we get for taking a month off, but I thought I would mention that not only to the public, but for those considering the campaign and getting elected to the council table at the end of this year. Just know what you're up to. You've got lots of reading to do. So with that, I'll go to the Deputy Mayor for our land acknowledgement statement.
Thank you, Your Worship. The town of Innisfil acknowledges that Innisfil is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. The town also acknowledges that this land is the traditional territories of the first people of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe peoples of Beausoleil First Nation, Chippewas of Rama First Nation, and Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, and we thank them for generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit.
Thank you, Deputy. I should have also mentioned that this meeting is being audio, video recorded and live streamed on the Town of Innisfil's YouTube channel, and it shall form part of the record, which will be retained in accordance with our retention bylaw. And if you want more information about that bylaw, you can get it from our clerk's office. So we also just recently did some housekeeping on our procedural bylaw for how we conduct our meetings. Most of the changes were very small. You probably won't even notice many of the changes here tonight, but if you see us struggling a bit, it's because it's our first time with the new procedural bylaw. And with that, we will start with our open forum, which we always do. Open forum is the opportunity for people to speak up to 2 minutes on an item that will be considered on tonight's agenda. We had one person that registered in advance, and that is Susan Dixon, and she's speaking to us in regards to the DSR 10526. Ms. Dixon, whenever you're ready.
Give me one sec. Thank you for having me. Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of Council and planning staff. This is in regards to a submission to Innisfil Council regarding DSR 10526, 1700 Webster Boulevard. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak with you today in regards to this submission. We are writing as residents whose homes will be directly adjacent to the proposed development of 1700 Webster Boulevard. As Council is aware, a petition was signed by a number of area residents expressing concerns and regards in development was previously presented to the town. After reviewing current proposal, we remain seriously concerned about the location of the proposed 3-story mixed-use building, as its associated parking area immediately is adjacent to existing residential properties. We recognize that Innisfil must accommodate future growth, and we want to emphasize that we are not opposed to the development of this property. Our concern is within the manner in which the development is being proposed in particular, the placement of commercial and mixed use so close to established detached homes. At a previous meeting, we respectfully asked Council to consider relocating the commercial component to the northwest corner of the subject lands where Webster Boulevard meets 7th line. This would place the commercial activity closer to major intersection and further away from existing residential backyards. Unfortunately, the proposal now before Council does not appear to address this request. We are also concerned about the considerable increase in traffic that would result from the proposed commercial development. Of particular concern, the proximity to the schools in the area, like Simcoe Public School, as a number of children walk through this area in the neighborhood. Increasing traffic, increased parking in this area, and additional vehicle and pedestrian interaction, consequently, and increased potential for accidents involving children traveling to and from school. We're also concerned that Quarry Drive could experience significant heavy traffic from vehicles attempting to address the commercial component of the development. For those reasons, we ask respectfully that Council could consider relocating to the proposed area on the north of the subject lands. We would also prefer that any commercial mixed building adjacent to the existing residential be limited to 2 stories rather than 3. We are concerned about the proposed parking area beside our homes, mostly because of headlight traffic would shine towards residential windows during evening hours. Vehicles may also have exhaust and gasoline odors for the backyards that are currently in place. Garbage storage and collection loading areas for the commercial properties will create additional noise for those neighboring backyards. If the development is permitted to remain in the location proposed by the developer, we ask that parking, garbage, and storage areas and similar activities be located away from the existing homes as reasonably as possible. We're wondering if there's a possibility of creating a landscaping buffer between those properties and the proposed parking area as well. Privacy is a major concern for the residential properties that are already in place, and as a real estate agent, I will say that that will diminish the value possibly of their properties going forward. If the mixed-use building were relocated to Webster Boulevard and 7th, we would strongly support the location currently being used or currently being proposed for that building to be considered as a parkette with mature trees, green space, walking trail to neighbor the existing backyards. We are also asking that there's a possibility of a request for deferral, as most of the residents that were opposed to this previously are either on holidays or were unaware that this meeting was actually happening tonight. We only learned about this 1 week ago, so we didn't have a chance to go door to door and express to the people who had signed the petition that this was actually happening today. So thank you so much for hearing our plea, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon.
Recording in progress.
So do we have anyone else that would like to speak this evening in open forum, keeping in mind it has to be on an item that's on tonight's agenda? So if you're interested in speaking to an item on tonight's agenda, please feel free to come up, and you have up to 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Vicki Palmer, and I agree with everything that Susan said in the letter. I've been contacted 4 times by one of the residents that is immediately adjacent to this property. She's worried to death, but she's in Poland right now and could not attend the meeting. But she's very, very concerned about, especially about the commercial property. Yeah, and I also wanted to mention that when we purchased these homes, the San Diego homes, I'm sure most people consulted with the San Diego homes, because they bought from the builder, about what was happening with that property at 1700. And we were all told that it was going to be single-family, residential, similar to the homes that are already built. And now it's turned 100% the other way. It's all going to be high density and lower valued, and there's going to be townhomes and this commercial building, which wasn't in the original plan at all. So I would hope that council will reconsider this. And anyhow, I agree with Susan again that it's unfair that you scheduled this meeting during the summer when people are on holidays, and we were given a week's notice. We didn't have any time to communicate with people, and there were over, I don't know, I can't remember the amount of people that signed the petition that disagree with the whole subject up there. And we feel that none of our concerns were considered as to the petition sent to the planning department. Another thing that I'm worried about is the proposed 30-unit apartments above the commercial units. How can you provide 2 parking spots for each resident up there. There's going to be 30 units up there, and we figured that most people are going to have possibly 2 vehicles. And how can this parking spot that they've scheduled for the back of this commercial building, how can it accommodate like 60 vehicles, then plus whatever it takes for the commercial? There's got to be a lot of parking spots for the commercial there too. And again, I would ask council to reschedule a meeting prior to voting for this new plan. We would all appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Palmer. Is there anyone else who would like to speak up to 2 minutes on any item that will be considered on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, thank you so much for those who participated. And we'll now move on to item 3, which is the approval of the agenda. Could I ask for a mover and a seconder, please, to approve the agenda as was printed and circulated 1 week ago? Moved by Councillor Zanella, seconded by Councillor Waters. Any agenda repair required before we get moving along? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Under item 4, I would ask anyone who has a conflict of interest or pecuniary interest on any of tonight's agenda items to please declare it now. Seeing none, if one becomes apparent to you during our discussion, please let it be known at that time, and we will make the necessary forms available to you and mark that in the minutes. Next is item 5, which is presentations. And our first presentation tonight is from Daniela Langford. She is our arts, culture, and events specialist. And she will give us an update on the 2026 Pitch-In Day, which happened earlier on in May. And it's an annual event. Welcome to the team. I'd just like to thank Ankel, Sue Bennett, and Al Gilchrist for being on this committee for so many years. Thank you for all of your help with it. Daniela, whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council, staff, and the public. My name is Daniela Langford, and I'm the Arts, Culture, and Event Specialist for the town of Innisfil. I'm here with our very dedicated Pitch-In Day Committee. Tonight, we are pleased to share the following update regarding the 2026 Pitch-In Annual Cleanup Event. Your Pitch-In working group consists of Ankel, Sue Bennett, Al Gilchrist, and myself.
We wish to thank everyone who participated in the 2026 Pitch-In Cleanup Day on Saturday, May the 9th. We were pleased to have 286 online registrations and many volunteers who participated on their own. Those who registered could pick up cleaning kits from April the 20th through May the 9th at the Town Hall, all library branches, and the fire stations in Alcona and Lefroy on May the 9th from 9 to 11 a.m. We thank Christine Gillespie, Communications and Community Engagement Coordinator, along with the Communications and Community Engagement team, for posting articles throughout the town's social media channels, promoting on-town boundary signs and capturing the day's activities.
We extend our appreciation to library staff and volunteer firefighters who assisted in handing out cleaning kits and pitching in. We would also like to extend our appreciation to the Rotary Club for prepping and serving the barbecue, candy, Children and Youth Entertainment, South Simcoe County, and Library Services who provided interactive activities for the Appreciation Barbecue. Without our generous sponsors' support and donations, this event would not be the success it is today. The Pitch-In Working Group extends its appreciation to the wonderful people of our community. To recognize them, a thank you ad was posted on the town's website and social media channels, and signage was up throughout the event space thanking our sponsors. We are always pleased to have the support of around 5,000 students from our Innisfil schools who participated during this year's pitch-in event.
So our event started with a dedication ceremony with the Rotary Club of Innisfil, who donated a series of trees and worked alongside town staff to help restore the tree canopy that was lost during the 2025 ice storm. To support the hard work of our community volunteers, an appreciation barbecue was hosted at Centennial Park. Everyone who attended enjoyed a free lunch, refreshments, draw prizes, face painting, beading and bracelet making, and some fun activities with the library services. And we would be remiss if we did not extend our appreciation to the customer service team at the town. They worked hand in hand with operations, taking calls so that our amazing road crew could collect bags and debris from all over Innisfil. None of this would have been possible without the teamwork of everyone involved. So thank you.
And now for the Golden Broom Award, which is presented to the council member with the most volunteer participation in their ward. We are excited to announce that Councillor Jennifer Richardson of Ward 3 is the 2026 Golden Broom Award winner. Congratulations, Councillor. We extend our appreciation to Council for their ongoing support for this event, and we'd like to let you know that, that our committee will be back next year stronger than ever. Thank you very much. Councillor Richardson, would you please come down for a picture?
Congratulations, Councillor Richardson. Is this not a three-peat? The hat trick by Councillor Richardson. Well done. 3 times for Ward 3. Thank you so much to the committee. Questions or comments to the committee?
I will just quickly say, sorry about that, that we do appreciate the support from everybody, volunteers, community members, staff, and council, and we hope to see all of you guys next year. The date is set for Saturday, May 8th of 2027.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. A special thank you to the committee this year. You know, we've been doing Pitch-In Day for as long as I can remember, and but this was our first year doing it without Kim Creamer, who retired last year. So we were thrilled to see that it can continue, because I think a lot of people thought, when Kim retires, are we going to be able to keep doing this? Because she put so many years into it. So in recognition of her and all of you, thank you so much. It was, I was out for a couple of hours, and what really touched me this year was the number of young families that would go out as a group. And the kids thought it was like a game. So it was wonderful to have that community spirit, and the schools always do such an amazing job. So thank you very much. You help us all take pride in our community, and we really appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to all the Ward 3 residents and all the other residents that participated in Pitch-In Day, and to the crew that organized it. It was a great event, and I look forward to next year.
Thank you very much. So now we have a recommendation that the Pitch-In Day information be received, moved by Councillor Saunders and seconded by Councillor Ices. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Next, we go to item 6. Item 6 is delegations from members of the public, and we have one delegation that has been registered for this evening, and it's Mr. Russell Cohen. Mr. Cohen, whenever you are ready.
Thank you. And I'd like to go on record that I'm only responsible for about 30 pages of your 1,000-page pre-read, so hopefully we'll go through this fairly quickly. I'm here to talk about the 10th line, in particular the section between the 25th Side Road and Purvis Street. My name is Russell Cohen. I'm a resident. I live at 2801 Purvis Street. It is my principal residence, so I'm full-time here. And we have been dealing with an issue on this section of the road for multiple years. Within the package that I submitted, there are sample emails that go back to 2023, 24, 25, and current one from this year, dealing with this same issue over and over again. And that is that this road is broken. It's got broken and crumbling pavement. There are numerous potholes that get filled in from time to time, but they reappear. The worst situation is the uneven driving surface, and that causes drivers to zigzag as you drive down this section of the road. And that's very alarming because it's a safety issue. It's a safety issue to cyclists and vehicles. It's a safety issue in particular. A lot of children in this area. And when you think about the public beach that's down at the end of the 10th line, there's lots of kids, and it's an accident waiting to happen, and we can't let that happen. This road has become so bad that I no longer drive that section of the 10th road. I go one street south to Chestnut and then pull in onto Purvis. I will not drive on that road. It is dangerous, and it causes damage to vehicles. Here's the issue. And, you know, they say picture is worth 1,000 words, but the reality is you actually have to, if you haven't driven on the 10th line on this section of the road, come take a drive in the next couple of days, because the pictures do not capture how bad it really is. It's uneven, it's broken, it's falling apart. There are potholes. There's, the middle one was just after a rainfall, and it's filled with water. Someone put a traffic cone in one of the potholes. That was last year's pothole. It got fixed, but it's back again this year. So here's one of the issues, and I pulled a page from the Innisfil website, and it's interesting to note, if you can't read the detail, it talks about road maintenance, and I've circled one of the highlighted items, which is potholes. There is nowhere on that page that you talk about other driving conditions on the surface of roads. It is almost as if I was looking at it for the first time, I would say the only thing that you are focused on is potholes. And you come along from time to time with asphalt and you fill in those potholes. But this section of the 10th line goes beyond potholes. It is dangerous driving conditions. I did notice that, and I don't know if it's coincidental, but on August the 5th, your crew was out there filling in potholes on the 10th line. I don't know if it was in advance of today's meeting. It helps, but it doesn't address the issues. It's interesting, the street that I drive on now instead of the 10th line is Chestnut. Go take a drive and take a look at two of the worst potholes in the town of Innisfil at the intersection of Chestnut and 25th Side Road, both on the north side of Chestnut and the south side, right at that intersection. And if you don't make that, if you're making a right-hand turn out of Chestnut going towards the 10th line, if you don't pull out wide enough, someone is going to have a lot of damage to their vehicle on that road. So I hope that future iterations of your road maintenance will go beyond potholes and include acceptable driving surfaces. So I know that you've done a roads needs study, and I know that when I started with the discussions with Linda Zanella, my councillor, and Ken Fowler, the deputy mayor, who was my former councillor, we understood that there was going to be a consultant study to start in 2024 with repair work to the roads most likely done in 2026. To our surprise, when I met with Councillor Zanella and Deputy Mayor Fowler and two of the staff from your roads department, we met on site at the end of May. I think it was a surprise to all of us to find that that had been deferred and delayed for 2 years, taking us to 2026 consultant study and rehabilitation in 2028, maybe. And I don't think, Ken, that you've ever got an answer as to how it got deferred without discussion and consultation, but that's for you guys to have some discussion behind the scenes. You know, my last statement on this page, I don't mean to be challenging, but I am challenging you guys. The message to residents is that damaged and dangerous road conditions are acceptable to council until at least 2028. And I'm here to tell you that the road conditions are unacceptable to the residents who use the 10th line on a regular basis and needs to be fixed. When we met on May 28th with the staff, there were 6 of us. The councillors Zanella and Deputy Mayor Fowler were looking for interim solutions. The residents, which was my wife and myself, just the 2 of us that day, we kept shifting the focus of discussion to the staff members. So you go to what were the staff focused on? They were focused on repairs in 2028. They did not come up with any solutions or any ideas about what could be done to fix the road now. And all that I've heard in all my discussions going back to 23, 24, 25, and now in 26 is what cannot be done. When I have discussions and when I question whether it's verbal questioning, whether it's questioning by email, the answers always come back, we can't do it because, and it will be done, we're looking at 2028. And I'm here to say to you, we need to shift the focus of discussion from what cannot be done to what can be done. So we go back to that May meeting. There was a follow-up email, June 23rd, and there's a copy of the email in the package. And I don't plan on discussing the whole content of it, but essentially, the capital project manager advised that interim repairs were reviewed but not recommended because slurry sealing would not address potholes. That goes back to my previous slide. You're so focused on potholes. What about the rest of the driving conditions? The uneven surface, the cracks, the crumbling of concrete. The second point is that localized cut and patch work could require postponing another paving project or potentially affect the timing of rehabilitation. I'm here to say to you 2 things. You'll have to figure out what you do in terms of postponing something else to fix this road, and I trust you're going to use good judgment to do that, but please do not affect the timing of rehabilitation, the full project, that right now is on the table for potentially 2028. You need to do 2 things. You need to do a temporary fix on this road now, and you need to continue to look at the full rehabilitation of this road. Why council should reconsider the current status? This is my opinion, that the decision not to proceed with interim repairs is based on project prioritization and funding. And I'm here to say to you, the decision should instead be based on the condition of the roadway, which is atrocious, and it should be based on the residents' safety when driving or walking. The council, I believe, has the authority to review these priorities where public safety is affected. So my requested resolution, and you can modify it and change it as you see fit, but essentially what I'm asking you for is interim repairs to the hazardous sections of 10th line between 25th Side Road and Purvis Street. And when you drive on the street from 25th Side Road, the first part of the road is reasonable. So don't drive on that first part of the road and say, oh, this is okay, and turn around and go back. You got to continue driving, and you got to get at least halfway down the road. And that section from about halfway all the way down to Ireton, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So drive it a couple of times and see what it's, drive it at the speed limit. I challenge you, because I certainly will not drive that one at the speed limit. Too much damage to our vehicles. I think you need to report back on options, cost, and timelines to accelerate the rehabilitation before 2028. It should have been done in 2026. To delay it for another 2 years is not treating the residents properly. And I think, Ken, you're still looking for an explanation about the change from the earlier project schedule, how it got moved from 24-26 to 26-28. So the conclusion, my conclusion, is that Innisfil Council should prioritize. Innisfil Council has to prioritize and manage spending. We all respect that. Residents understand and expect that, but at what price for the 10th line? We are paying the price for the prioritization that you have done, and it should change for the 10th line. The conditions have been getting worse each year. An interim solution is needed now. Rehabilitation needs to be accelerated. Vehicles are getting damaged on this stretch of road, and your claims department are denying claims, and what you're doing is wrong. I've had a claim denied. My neighbor Avi has had a claim denied, and your principle for these claims, I don't know if illogical is the right word, but I can't think of another one. The obligation for the resident who has damage to the vehicle is to report within 10 days. Under the roads, what's it called? Under the
Minimum maintenance standard?
minimum maintenance, thank you. Under the minimum maintenance standards, you have 14 days to fix reported damage to a pothole. So we have damage to our vehicle, we report it to you in 10 days, you fix it between days 10 and 14, and then you send a letter to my neighbor and says, because we met our obligation to fix the pothole within 14 days, we are no longer liable for any damage to your vehicle. And he had to replace 2 tires on his vehicle. I don't understand the process of this report in 10 days and we'll fix it in 14, and that negates our responsibility. To me, it's almost like I'll get if I drive too fast and I get pulled up, I'll get a speeding ticket. If I then start driving at the speed limit, when I go to court, I'll say to them, well, yes, I was driving faster than the speed limit, but I've now been driving at the speed limit, so my offense is no longer valid. That's the analogy I see. It's not logical and it doesn't make sense. Traffic is increasing around Leonard's Beach on an annual basis. That beach is getting busier and busier. The road is getting worse, and pedestrian safety is at risk. That's what we're dealing with. And I implore you, you guys need to do whatever is necessary to do a temporary fix now, to give us back a a good driving surface on that road that will be safe and advance the rehabilitation. 2028 is going to be too long out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. I'm going to now go to members of council to see if there's any questions or comments. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. I understand really well what the 10th line is like because I cycle on it, and my bike has no suspension. So I understand. And it's not the first time that staff have heard this, and our CAO is well aware of it because I brought the same argument concerning Happy Vale. And so it seems to be something that needs to be addressed. So I support you in this effort.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We're going to go to, can I just ask staff a couple of questions, and then we'll go back to members of council. So two issues I want to cover here. One is with operations, Director of Operations, about the focus on potholes and what we do in the town to maintain the roads, and then to Director of Planning and Growth to talk about the process regarding the roads needs study and how roads are prioritized for reconstruction. Sorry, lost my mind there for a second. Director Bowman, can you talk a bit about the process around operations and maintaining roads?
Thank you, Your Worship. I can give you a few highlights. So as you mentioned, the minimum maintenance standard defines our requirement for pothole management. We usually try to better than what that standard is. The standard sets out our requirement to repair potholes based on the classification of roads and the depth of the pothole in question. Our method of finding those is multiple. They are sometimes reported to us, and they'll be cataloged and put into our work order system where we can see where they're appearing on our roads. We've modernized our data collection. Now we actually have a digital device that's constantly in rotation across our roadway network, picks up those potholes, reports them with images and data, creating a full list of pothole repairs that are necessary. On a typical day, we send out 1 to 2 patching trucks that go out and work on those segments based on our requirements to fill those potholes. So higher volume roads that have faster traveling speeds will get our attention a little sooner. But we'll send out those crews and they'll manage their pothole filling. In the warm months when the asphalt plant is open, we're using a hot mix patch, which does hold fairly well. In the winter, when we're using cold mix patches, they can pop out with the freeze-thaw cycle, and we have to go back to them multiple times, and then we'll come back to them in spring, where we can usually hit them for a better fix. A road like this does have a lot of potholes on it, and I understand that there are other structural issues with that road, and that takes us beyond what we can do as far as patching with pothole patch.
Thanks. Now go to Director DeLee to talk.
Can I respond?
You
or
may.
Do I wait until the end?
If you could just wait, and we're going to hear both sides, because that's operations
Okay.
side. So I want you now to hear about the roads needs study and how roads are chosen.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. So the last roads needs study was done in 2022. It's done every 5 years to reassess the current condition of the town's roads and reevaluate sort of the condition of those roads, reprioritize the projects that should be considered for rehabilitation, and whether that's full rehabilitation or it details the type of work. We then look at the list of those projects and bring forward that list in terms of the priorities to council for consideration as part of every 2-year budget cycle within the rehabilitation budget that is provided. What we look at as part of that process is the pavement condition index, so the PCI of the road, so an indication of what is the condition of that road, and we, through our asset management program, we identify what is an acceptable level for roads being at that PCI of 40. Certainly in terms of this road, I think we have identified that it is at 30, I believe. But there are approximately 48 kilometers of road within the town as a whole that are under that 40 PCI indication. So those would be the ones that are prioritized higher in terms of rehabilitation of the road segments that we look to complete. When we are then moving forward in terms of rehabilitation, we go through a process of sort of preliminary design, a detailed design, and then the actual construction, which is done over a series of year 1, year 2, and then construction being in the following years. The reason we do that is in that preliminary work, we identify whether there's geotechnical work. So we need to look at the base of the road, what's causing the issues. Is there more work that has to be done than what we were anticipating? So this particular road section has been in the preliminary design. The detailed design is at 30% right now, and it's 30, 60, 90. So we're anticipating that being completed. And when that is done, we have a series of roads that are in that same program from 2025 that are moving forward for 27 and 28 construction is what we identify. We don't specify which of those years because we have to determine when the design is completed. And then we look at, are there a number of roads within a particular area, so it makes sense to group those and do the construction of all of those roads at the same time. So hopefully that provides some clarity, Mayor Dolan.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen, did you want to respond to?
Yeah, if I can just, I just want to make sure I understand what I've heard. Some of it I didn't understand, quite honestly. It's a little technical. But, the first set of comments, if you go back to slide 6, it's the one you can't read where it's your website, the page from the website. You just reinforced the point that I made, and that is your discussion is all around potholes. My discussion is around the whole road surface. Potholes are only part of it. And your new system that you've got missed the 2 huge potholes on the corner of Chestnut. I'll bet by the end of this week, or early next week at the latest, I'll bet those 2 potholes get repaired and filled in. So your process, in theory, it's good, but in practicality, is not working. I think what I heard in the second set of comments is that the roads need study and the rehabilitation process could be for as early as 2027 or 28. Is that what I heard?
Mayor Dolan, if I can clarify. So there are a list of roads, including the 10th line section that you have identified, that are currently in the design phase with a consultant, that we would look to tender for construction over 27 and 28. And we look at that list of the projects that are in that time frame and identify if there's groupings in similar areas that would be done either in 27 or 28.
Okay, so my last comment is I go back to the ask that I put on the table, and it's 2 things. It's 1, we get an immediate, obviously temporary fix of the 10th line, and coming here tonight from Purvis Street, I drove along 20th Side Road, all the way down to Innisfil Beach Road. That has just been, it's not repaved, I don't know what the term you use is, but there's a new surface on that road. That would be a good temporary fix for the 10th line for now. And perhaps that's a consideration that you need to be discussing. Second item is that we do not wait until 2028 for the permanent fix for the 10th line, because my understanding is whatever temporary fix you do this year won't last until 2028. So if you're going to be doing a full rehabilitation of the 10th line, that we get into your 2027 schedule and not be deferred again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Councillor Zanella?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Cohen, for your presentation. This is something I've been dealing with for a number of years. Just to let my colleagues know, it is a very heavily traveled road. It is the road that goes to Leonard's Beach. It's the road that I take my grandkids to, so I'm there all the time. It is traveled by cottagers, traveled by boats, traveled by trailers, so there's a lot of traffic on it. The winter that we've had has not made it any better. In fact, it's, it made it even worse. So I would like to propose a recommendation, and that would say that the delegation from Russell Cohen regarding the condition of the 10th line be received for information, and the delegation, or the council directs staff to expedite completion of the design on the 10th line rehabilitation project and to accelerate the construction to 2027.
Thank you, and you have a seconder for that motion.
Deputy Mayor wants to second that.
Deputy Mayor, thank you. And questions or comments on the revised recommendation? Councillor Drodge, then Councillor Saunders.
Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks for your presentation. I think you're just scratching the surface of a much bigger issue. I know in my ward alone, I have dozens of roads that need to be redone. I think the solution, the long-term solution is that come next budget cycle, that current council seriously looks at the condition of our roads as a whole, and we rebudget to try to accelerate all the roads in Innisfil in a faster manner. So I believe that would be a solution for you in the long run. In the interim, I have worked with Director Bowman on certain stretches of road. We do have different means than just filling potholes with hot asphalt. She's tried different methodologies to try to make sections of road better. So I will give her credit in the aspect that she is trying. Obviously, she has a budget she has to follow, so council has to set a budget so that she can have more resources to do things. So I think ultimately, I don't know if I want to support your recommendation because I think my phone would ring off the hook for the 17 roads that I have in my ward that are desperately in need to get reconditioned. But I definitely agree with you that we need to look at our roads infrastructure and that our next budget cycle, council should seriously consider making a bigger budget for those roads. Now, with that being said, we're obviously going to have to give up things. So come budget cycle, if we decide to go that avenue, there might be other things we might have to pull back. But I do believe the roads in Innisfil are in despair, and I think we need to catch up on them. So I think, the next budget cycle would be a good idea to talk about road infrastructure. Thank you.
Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree. Thank you, Mr. Cohen, for your presentation. Unfortunately, I am with Councillor Drodge, which I cannot support this. I as well have numerous roads to be redone, and to bump your road, the 10th line, to be done sooner than some of the other roads, I won't support that. But I will ask our Director Lee, if this gets moved to 2027, will it bounce any other capital projects or paving projects? And do we actually even have the material and a contractor to do the work?
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. Through to Councillor Saunders. So the road is identified. It is currently undergoing design. We are still waiting for the final geotechnical work. Essentially, it would be incorporated into the tender that would go out in 2027 for 27 and 28 construction. And of the group, we would then look to, based on the recommendation that's on the screen, we would prioritize this to come forward over some of the other projects that are in that same group. And there's probably 20 plus projects in that roads rehabilitation grouping for 27 and 28 construction. It would not remove any of the other projects that are on that list at this point.
Thanks. So just to be clear, that if we did the 10th line, it would bump other paving projects. So like I'm saying, for my road, Earl Street, would it, like if Earl Street was in there, I don't know if it is or not, and you're bumping it from 2027 to 2028, I'll probably have 50 phone calls if that's found out that I've voted in favor of bumping the 10th line in that. So I just, like I said, I don't think just because someone's doing a delegation that we should be bumping that road up in effect. Because if we start doing that, unfortunately, we'll have a lineup from this council here all the way out the door, having residents asking for their road to be bumped up as well.
Thank you. Councillor Waters.
Although I sympathize with the situation at the 10th line, like the other councillor have said, is that we all have roads. And like I said, Happyville is one I've had the exact same, and we're in the process of design right now. I don't want to see that whole thing upset because one road gets prioritized over. There's a natural order that staff do them in, and it's not fair that other wards would get bumped if to accelerate one single project. So I'm in support of what Councillor Drage has said and Councillor Saunders. Thank you.
Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. And for Ward 1, the last couple of years, we've had the distinction of having a couple of CAA's worst roads, and so I do sympathize with that, and I really appreciate your presentation. So those roads in Ward 1 have been bumped off the list. Construction has happened, and so I don't think council's really satisfied with the system. I don't think staff is either, really, with how roads are analyzed for where they're at, and I'm quite sure that there's changes going to happen so that we can catch up on these things. So for those reasons, I agree with the other councillors about, this is something that's being worked on. The new council next year will have a big say in roads. But I would like to ask staff the question, and you brought up one of the reasons why we would want to fix this road, and that is the safety part of it. So I would like to ask staff, when we look at roads, what is kind of the tipping point on the safety aspect where we would say we're going to go ahead in our priority list to deal with this? And I think that those roads in Ward 1 that were recently dealt with, I'm assuming that was part of the issue there, why they were dealt with quicker. So maybe some comments around how that's analyzed in our roads needs.
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. I'll maybe start, but I'm sure Ms. Bowman will probably weigh in as well. So as I indicated, we start with the road needs study in terms of evaluating and identifying sort of the condition of our roads, and through the asset management, we identify an acceptable level for all of our roads, and then we have to prioritize of those roads based on the budget that's provided, which roads are then prioritized based on sort of the worst conditions of those roads to move them forward. And so, they're on that list, they're being identified for rehabilitation and going through a design process. As Ms. Director Bowman has indicated, then we're looking at sort of what are the minimum maintenance standards to maintain those roads to ensure they're meeting that sort of provincial standard. And then there would be sort of a series of factors that they would consider in terms of, when does it become a safety consideration? So I'm not sure whether I'll let Director Bowman maybe speak to that part of it.
Thanks, Your Worship. Through you. So just adding to what Director Lee has said. So when we look at our roads for their condition, we're using a pavement condition index, and it is looking at a number of factors, including the distress. So the type of distress, some of which we heard about today, some of the alligator cracking, linear cracking, potholes is one example, raveling and corrugation are others. So those types of distress factors are picked up. We also look at how much of that is appearing in a road or how frequently along a segment of roadway, the depths that are involved, and that goes into calculating those PCI conditions. And as PCI deteriorates, those are the indicators that a road surface is no longer where it should be for our motorists.
Thank you. Anyone else? Deputy?
Thank you, Your Worship. Technical question. I believe we now have an AI program for the roads. Has that been fully implemented yet and traveled all the kilometers of the roads, just so we can verify the extent of the damage that's being claimed here?
Director Bowman?
Through you to the Deputy Mayor, yes, we've implemented a program called City Rover. City Rover uses dash-mounted cameras that can use visual data collection and AI tools to analyze what it sees in the photographs. So we can create records of what is seen at various points on a road every 15 meters, I think it was 15 meters, we have data points. So we do have those data points on this segment of road also.
So the point I'm asking is there enough data collected that we can verify the claims being made comparison to other roads? Like, have we completed all the roads in the town since it's been implemented, or has it been only a portion of the roads?
Director Lee?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. So when I had identified earlier that the pavement condition index for the 10th is 30, that was based on the City Rover data that we had. And when we then look and do the comparison of other roads that are in that sort of up to 40 PCI, and we have 48 kilometers of road across the town, that's all data from that City Rover that's identified the segments across the town that are in that sort of lower, sort of poor pavement condition index.
Thank you. Councillor Drodge?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a question. The 10th line rating of 30, that's the 10th line as a whole?
So through you, Mayor Dolan, that is for the section subject to the delegation tonight.
So the 10th line is broken up then into sections. So if the section of the road, you know, north or, sorry, I guess it'd be east or west, they would have ratings, individual ratings?
Yeah, so if I can clarify, Mayor Dolan, the way the roads need study is done, it's done from intersection point to intersection point. As Director Bowman has indicated, the City Rover does it at 15-meter intervals. So it can do a little bit more accurate, but then it's got to factor that in on what section would you necessarily, you're not going to rehabilitate a 15-meter section, so it will average that to those intersection points.
So if a road like the 10th line is 75% of it is in relatively good shape and 25% hits those thresholds, you take it as an average over the whole road before you would rehabilitate the whole road?
It would look at the PCI rating. We would see that over those sections of the road and then over from the intersection points and come up with the rating from intersection to intersection of how we would evaluate it. But again, it's done from that pavement condition index, the assessment that's been done by staff on varying roads, and that road needs study overall.
And if I may, just one more question. So looking at those photos, I'm assuming it's not just a simple patch job, it's a little more to it than that. And I'm assuming that's less than minimum road standard. What would be a typical practice? Could you give an idea of what other actions we could take other than just filling the pothole? Like, is there an application you can do, or is there a way you would look at a road when it's a section like that that's that damaged? Is there other mediation or remediation, I guess is the word I'm looking for?
We're probably going to tag team a little bit on this. So, and I think it did come out of the delegation. This road was slurry sealed in 2021 to put a surface treatment on the road, knowing that the rehabilitation project was coming forward. There were some discussions between the operations and the capital engineering team in terms of, you know, are there some temporary solutions that could be made to the road? And there are, as Director Bowman spoke to, sort of hot mix or cold mix options. When we look at that in terms of the sections that would have to be done and based on tender results from other projects, the cost to complete the sections that are in question are in the range of about $150,000.
CEO Jershow.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan, and thank you for the delegation. I want to take a moment to maybe just zoom out a bit, because we're not just talking about the 10th line, we're talking about the town as a whole. And it is a fact that our roads network is the biggest asset class that the town owns. And I want to say with absolute clarity that the goal for staff is to build a great road network, maintain it as well as we can, and to maximize value for money for the taxpayers of Innisfil. And that's where it gets challenging. I don't think anyone is debating that there is a problem on the 10th line in the neighborhood you described. We do have the condition data. We know the problem is there. You know, not because of your delegation, but just because it's actually an important issue. A number of us spent an hour and a half today in a boardroom talking about exactly these issues, how we reconcile a road needs study with a transportation master plan, with an asset management plan, and how we optimize the decision around prioritization. So the directors have talked about the work we do to use those different data sources, but you get into these dilemmas like, is it better to fix a road that's in worse condition that 40 cars drive on in a day versus one that's, you know, maybe a little bit better condition, but 1,000 cars use it every day? That issue of traffic volume is also something that factors in. And let's say you know you need to repair a road, but you know that next year In-Services is going to dig it up because they have to put pipes underneath. That might be a reason for a project delay. Or when you do the detailed design and you realize the reason the road is falling apart is that the soil underneath it is actually falling apart and needs to be fixed, or there's an old culvert that needs to be dealt with so that the road you're building will last, is another consideration for why projects sometimes get delayed. And in the case of 10th Line in particular, there's also a consideration around when Ireton will be connected and the Lake Haven development is completed, because that's going to change traffic patterns and volumes. And the longer term plan is to get to a more urban road section. So those are some of the dilemmas staff try to manage to deliver the best road program we can. Where it comes to council then is the question of level of service. How good do you want your roads to be? And the budget. Because we could spend a lot of money having a very, very, very perfect road network across Innisfil, but that's where the other considerations around budget come in. So I guess, you know, I may not be answering Mr. Cohen's request directly, but I do want to convey to council and the community that our priority as staff is to manage this as well as we can. We try to make reasonable judgments and decisions about how to prioritize projects. We think we can get better at it in terms of that reconciliation of planning, using better data, using more current data to have a more refined prioritization. But I mean, these are the dilemmas that we struggle with, but we're trying to get it right.
Thank you for that, Mr. Gershow. So just a bit of the historical view on you know, how the roads were picked every year, long way back, you know, 25 years ago. We'd come to budget time, and it was almost a brawl. Each councillor would be after their own ward, and my road's worse than your road, and then there'd be some bargaining going on. Well, maybe, you know, if you do this road in the 6th, I'll vote for your road on the 4th, that type of thing. And I was very glad to see that come to an end when we came up with our very first roads needs study, and doing it based on predictable data, including the average annual daily traffic count, the ADT, including the PCI, the pavement condition index, and all of those things punched into a thing, and it blurts out a list of like worst roads to better roads to better roads. And with that, when I got a phone call about a road saying my road was the absolute worst road, and I'd look on the list, it would be 35. And I could say to that person, you should be able to go to this road, which is number 25, and you should be able to say, well, yeah, that is kind of a bit worse, or it's about the same as mine, but boy, there's a lot more cars, something like that. And it does help us make that decision based on data and not emotion, which is something that we do always try to do. Going back to the pothole issue, I want to address first, and the reason that operations, not engineering, but operations is so focused on that is because we got a lot of pothole calls this spring. We had a brutal, brutal winter, and every one of us, our voicemails were full of people complaining about potholes. So that is why right now, and since the spring, we did the pothole blitz, and we've been focused on that type of maintenance on the roads that need maintenance. But when it comes to reconstruction of a road, which is where we are with the 10th line, you know, besides just putting that, as CEO Jersha said about sometimes we have to look at what the underlying concerns are. And I'm no engineer, but I can tell from driving the 10th that as you go towards the lake, the water table gets higher, there's no ditches. I would consider drainage is probably one of the reasons why that road is in the shape it's in, the closer you get to the lake. And those types of issues, and I think Councillor Zanella and I were talking about this earlier. I said it's like putting a Band-Aid on a wound that's already infected. We have to get rid of that infection, put on the antibiotic, and then cover it. And this motion to move to 2027, and if I understood correctly, is not bumping anyone that's currently on the list, I can support. Because I think we all know that we do our budgets in a 2-year cycle. So we did our last budget covered 2025 and 2026. So this council that's going to be elected in the fall will worry about the 2027, 2028 budget. And I would think just based on conversations in the community, roads is a priority, and the safety and the repair of the road system that we have is going to be high on that next council list, which would put it high in that budget. So I can support Councillor Zanella's motion to have this accelerated to full rehabilitation in 2027. I don't like the idea of doing a temporary fix in 2026, because we got 40 days left of summer, believe it or not, and then we're into the fall. When we try to push roads too late into the fall, we typically don't get the same results as we like to get when they go into the colder months. But also, if that temporary fix is put on now, that could impact it not getting its full fix in 2027. And if I lived on that road, I would rather have the full fix in 2027 than put it off any longer. There's 770 lane kilometers of road that we are responsible for. That doesn't include like the highways, the 489. It doesn't include the county roads, which are the ones that are all under construction right now. And I do believe that we do need to invest more firmly in our road program and try to advance some of these capital projects going forward. So I am in support of Councillor Zanella's motion, and then I'll go to any other members of council who want to, and then we'll go to a vote. Councillor Ices.
Thank you for that, Your Worship. That I can see the logic in what you are saying there. I guess in the process of how we do things, my question would be, if this motion were to get defeated, there's a new council coming in, and that this decision will be reassessed at budget time. Am I correct in saying that? If this motion is voted down, that will not mean that the road isn't fixed in 2027, is my comment. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the new council, because they will be passing the budget that lists the roads that are getting fixed next year.
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. If I can just clarify, so the 10th line is already in the 2025 roads rehabilitation program. So the budget is approved for the rehabilitation of that road. The design is being completed in 26 this year, with construction already in the budget for 27 or 28. So that's already in the approved budget from 25-26.
Okay, thank you.
You did remind me of one other thing I did want to say, though, Councillor Ices, and that was about the fluctuation of, I get a call from somebody, I look up on the roads needs study, and I say, your road is number whatever, 43, and it's going to be done in 2028. And then 2028 rolls around, and it got pushed to 2029. And how does that happen? And it is very difficult when that happens. I'll give you an example of when it had a severe impact in Innisfil, and that's when Innisfil Beach Road was totally reconstructed. I don't know how long all of you have lived here, but it was open ditches, no sidewalks. And that particular project was originally phased in to be done over, I think it was a 4-year project. The council of the day said, this is crazy, we can't have our main street in Alcona under construction for that many years. It's going to be too hard on businesses. We have to accelerate and do it all in a year and a half, which staff did. But what that did is took about, I want to say 10 or 12 other significant road projects and bumped them back 2 years. So it is a bit of a balancing act. It's one that we need to get better at. But just if I could to ask you, Ms. Leet, because I think there was a question you were asking the deputy to find out about how do those roads get moved around from one roads need study to the next?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. So as we noted, every 5 years the roads need study is completed, and it would reevaluate the current status of those roads. And certainly roads can deteriorate more quickly or less quickly than we anticipated. And so projects may change based on that updated roads needs study. But then once those are identified and we've, as you noted, sort of placed them in a priority sequence, then we have to look at things like when we do the detailed design, if we do some of that geotechnical work and we determine that in fact further work is required, that may delay that project. Or we determine that there are other utility projects or related county projects in the area that we need to align with. We also have to look at, in many of the cases, we have some significant work around Killarney Beach Road this year. And so some of our other roads rehab projects have been delayed because we didn't want to, we've got other roads as the detour routes. We didn't want other roads rehabilitation occurring in that same community at the same time. So that will cause delays or in other cases accelerate other projects.
Thank you. I'll ask if there's any final comments. Councillor Waters, and then we'll go to a vote.
If it fails, I recommend you come back in December when we start doing budgets. And I won't be here, by the way, so I won't take any responsibility. But I was just coming back a budget to listen and advocate for more money to be spent on roads. That being said, there's going to be other people saying that we spend too much money and that we have to balance it off against something. So I suggest, that if it does get defeated, that you show up in budget season and advocate for more money to be spent on roads. Thank you.
Do I get a chance to make a comment? And it's just a closing comment. If the original schedule, which we were on the 24-26 schedule, had been kept with the study in 24 and the rehabilitation to be done in 26, I wouldn't be here tonight. And you would be 30 minutes further into your agenda than where you are. Please, please do not delay us any further. We've already been delayed. So, to the two councillors at the ends here who are doing a great job in protecting the roads in your wards. And I don't blame you for thinking that way, but you know what? I've been there. We've already had our roads delayed from being fixed. So as much as you don't want to see items being bumped, it happens all the time. That's the world we live in. That's life. We have been bumped. And that's why I'm here tonight. I want to come back. I'll come back here for another topic and celebrate stuff with you. I don't want to be back here talking about this topic again. 10th line is a problem. Please help us fix it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen, and my apologies for missing our site meeting on the 28th. I
understood there was an issue.
A family emergency and wasn't able to be there, but very much appreciate you and your supporters coming out this evening. And I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of the recommendation on the screen? One, two, three, four, five. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's carried. So looks like 2027. Thank you. Okay, next on the list is our consent list. So we're going to start with item number 7. So what happens during the consent list is all of the staff reports and all of the backup information has been on the agenda and council's had a chance to look at it for a week. Now we will pull any items for questions or further conversations. If the item that you're concerned about is not pulled, that means at the end of the meeting it will be confirmed and the staff recommendation will carry. So we'll start then with item adoption of minutes, which is A1, council meeting minutes dated June 24th, 2026. B1, that would be the June 9th Innisfil Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting. B2, the June 9th Innisfil Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting. B3, the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee meeting from June 16th. Go ahead, Councillor.
I just have a quick question as to if there is a date for when that survey would be going out. It was mentioned at in one of the sets of minutes that there was going to be a survey going out to residents regarding like the bylaws with ATVs and side-by-sides. Just wondering if there's any update as to if there's a date for that survey yet.
Through you, Mayor Dolan, Councillor Richardson. So staff were doing initially internal work, and I think we had clarified that at one of the previous council meetings where we were doing review of best practices of other municipalities, other bylaws, and then would look to do the survey work in early 2027.
Is that everything, Councillor Richardson? Perfect, thank you. B4, the Electoral Engagement Advisory Committee minutes dated June 24th. B5, the Audit Advisory Committee meeting minutes dated July 28th. Councillor Constantine.
I'm not going to pull it. I just want to say on July 28th, we wrapped up our final Audit Advisory Committee meeting, concluding a productive term focused on sound financial stewardship, risk management, and accountability. I just want to say thank you to Ms. Audrey and her team for putting us on a sound financial footing.
Thank you, Councillor. Next is item C1, which is the Friday Harbor Street naming. C2, which is the town-wide amendment to the CPPS bylaw. Councillor Ices?
I'd like to refer that to committee, please.
Thank you, Councillor. And then we have C3, which is the DSR 10526, the 1700 Webster Boulevard, OPA and CPP bylaw amendment. Councillor Richardson?
I'd like to pull that, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Next is C4, that is the 2025 consolidated financial statements. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I just had one question, if I could, Ms. Webb, is how can we, through comms or otherwise, make these available to the public? I know they're available to the public, but how can we push them out to the public to have the, we quite often see on social media people asking, you know, where does this money go and where does that money go? And we need an audited financial statement. Well, this is our audited financial statement. So how can we get it out there so people see it? Maybe that's unfair. Maybe I should be asking that to communications and not to finance, but I can take that offline. CA Joshua?
Maybe I can take a shot at that. You know, I think we try to communicate the town's financial position in a number of ways. And, you know, often we rely on the budget process for doing that. And if you look at our budget communications, whether that's our website, the documents we create, they're intended to be a bit more user-friendly to help people understand, you know, where does the money go? You think, too, about things like inserts in a tax bill. Very short, very simple, but meant to convey at a basic level, you know, how are we spending your money? Something like financial statements are pretty esoteric and complicated. They're not often the best way to convey, you know, some of those questions. But we know it's on people's minds. We always welcome people to ask the questions. We can help folks if they have questions. And we do have that coordination with the communications and finance teams. We talk about it. We're talking about it in terms of the upcoming budget process. How can we engage people? How can we explain these issues to the community? So it is definitely on our minds.
Wonderful. And, you know, as Councillor Constantine just said, we did wrap up our audit committee for this council term, but assuming there'll be another audit committee, and there's some public volunteer places on that committee for people who are interested and are good at reading balance sheets and would like to contribute to the town in a meaningful way to be the person to go through those audit statements and ask questions during audit committee. Those positions will be advertised late in 2026 or early 2027. Next is C5, which is electronic devices for elected officials policy update. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Risha. I'm not going to pull it, but I'm going to be petty for a second. We don't make a lot of money as councillors, and when I read through this, I was really quite shocked that when we go on vacation and we make telephone calls from Italy so that we can be in council at 1 o'clock in the morning, it says, you're not going to pay for that. I'm sorry, if I'm going to be up at 1 o'clock in the morning making a phone call to council, I want town to pay for that. So I was really ticked when I read that piece. And the other piece was around lost and damaged cell phones. I think we're all responsible adults. We don't throw our phones against the wall. When we drop them and they break, we expect them to be fixed. Not that we're going to have to pay for them. So I read this, it just hit me the wrong way. I'd be petty for 5 minutes. Thank you.
But you're not making any amendments, Councillor. Okay. All right. And I'm not seeing anyone else do it. So we'll go on to C6, which is the application for approval to expropriate part of 1467th line and 7535 10th line. Are there any comments on the expropriation proceedings? Seeing none, we'll go to C7, which is the South Innisfil Creek Drain Improvement Final Cost and Levying Bylaw. Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'm not going to pull it. I just want to acknowledge the immense pile of work that went into this project. This project, I think, started back in 2004. So we're 22 years into this, and to see it come to fruition and be a functioning drain is quite the accomplishment. I also want to give kudos to Burnside because whatever you did, you've lowered those fees a little bit, because when Dillon's did the original proposed what the cost was going to be for the residents and the farmers, it was substantially higher than what they are actually going to pay today for this final consideration. So kudos to Burnside and kudos to staff and everybody involved for making this project a final, no longer to talk about. By the way, just on a sidebar, I got a binder that was this thick when I got elected that was just for South Innisfil Creek Drain.
Thank you. I think the flood that started the South Innisfil Creek drain was in 2000, if I'm not mistaken. So we've been through a quarter of a century with this one drain, be it is a huge, large municipal drain. And the Drainage Act is not for the faint of heart. It's a very necessary but complicated piece of legislation. And again, a big thanks to Burnside and to our own drainage engineer for all of that work. I can tell you we have had significant rain this year, and the South Innisfil Creek drain work and design is functioning, and I've heard that right from farmers. So thank you so much, and I can't say that I'm not happy to hear the last of the South Innisfil Creek drain. Okay, C8, the Q2 operating and financial update. Councillor Fowler, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Fowler.
I'd like to pull that, thank you.
Then we'll go to D1, which is our staff reports for information. The first one is our building permits issued, Q2 2026. Any comments on that? Seeing none, we'll go to correspondence for action. So our first one is the council discretionary grant program, and that was for Arif Patel, the annual summer carnival. So I'm not going to pull it, but I just wanted to thank Arif for putting on the carnival. I think it was really well attended. It was a beautiful day, and he raised some money for Sick Kids Hospital. And what a nice young man he is. So thank you for that. F2 is the council discretionary grant program for the Cookstown Collective, the Cookstown Journal launch. F3 is the council discretionary grant for the Innisfil Arts Council Dinner in White, which I think happens this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, Sunday. Thank you. F4, the council discretionary grant program to Royal Canadian Legion Veteran Programming Sorry. Great. G1, that's Police Services Board meeting minutes from May 15th. G2, the Police Services Board meeting minutes from May 27th. G3, the Library Board minutes from May 19th. G4, letter from Minister Flack regarding strong mayor powers and election year budgets. G5, a proclamation for National Coaches Week. All right, and that's everything. So then we'll go to our consent list recommendation with the items that are pulled. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Deputy Fowler. All those in favor? That is carried. So our first item which was pulled was resolved to committee of the whole. I always miss that one. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Zanella, Councillor Constantine, all those in favor? That is carried. Now we'll go to our first item, which was Councillor Ices, and that was the CPPS.
Thank you, Worship. Councillor Saunders is my seconder. So I just wanted to take a moment to bring this to the committee, just because this is the end of quite a long process that the town has been going through in changing the planning permit system. And it kind of struck me when I looked through the report. There's 300 and some pages, and the details in there. I think every detail around planning the attempt is to put this into this bylaw so that staff have, this is where they go for all that information. So I guess my question around that would be, because of the specifics of the details, and this is more, a whole planning 101 perhaps, if we want to change something in those bylaws, how do we go about this? And the example that struck me was, a bed and breakfast is described as, premises that only has 3 bedrooms that you can rent out for an overnight stay. So what if council decided we want that to be 4? And I could go on. It's very a prescriptive bylaw, and I know the intent is to make this more streamlined so that the processes move forward. But just help me understand, moving forward, how do we amend it if we see fit?
Thank you. I'll go to Manager Correa, but I think I was remiss. I think Manager Correa wanted to address that before we ask questions, and I apologize for missing you. Manager.
Through Mayor Dolan, appreciate that. I'll start high level. We strategically undertook this review concurrently with preparing our updated official plan. And in fact, it doesn't go into effect until the town's new official plan is approved by the county and province. But what I would say is, while a lot of detailed work and requirements are built into this bylaw, it's not meant to be static and in place for the next 30 years. There's opportunities to continually revisit emerging best practices and changes within what was a zoning bylaw, now transforming into that new community planning permit system. I did want to mention as well, being that geography is town-wide, there's more than likely the need to evolve and make housekeeping and amendments over time. In fact, when we approved last June the Alcona and the updated shoreline CPPS, we did need to come back a few months later with some technical revisions and just that general, keeping up to date with where the CPPS bylaw and our, which is really that detailed zoning, the black and white of is it permitted or not, needs to be. In terms of the ability to vary from, your example is, the definition might refer to 3 bedrooms and council might be comfortable with 4. The CPPS is designed in that there's a series of permissions that you can go through. Class 1 means it's as of right. It essentially proceeds more or less directly to a building permit. Where there's that, what used to be a minor variance, but now is called a Class 2 permit, it does give staff some discretion, as outlined as black and white as we can in this bylaw, as to what staff can consider as a minor variation. And when it exceeds that threshold of staff delegation, those Class 3 permits or an amendment to the CPPS bylaw are things that go through public consultation and can be considered by council. So there still is opportunity for a resident or a landowner or developer to seek changes, as well as if there's a specific topic, a specific standard that this or future council would want staff to look at, we could receive that feedback and then do a specific study if there was something, use or parking or anything related to that. So although it's a major milestone and we're proud to bring this forward, it isn't meant to be static. It will evolve over time. That being said, we did receive a number of correspondence through the public consultation process, and since this notice of returning to council was released. And so staff have reviewed each of those letters and are prepared to support a number of what we really consider minor technical revisions, points of clarification that would simply make the bylaw clearer and easier to administrate, some of which are on a parcel by parcel basis. And if it's okay, I would just like to go kind of one by one, and clerks does have this in advance should council want to include it. And this would reduce hopefully the need for any future housekeeping, or at least for what we know so far. So it is quite detailed, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well. I'm just going to go kind of one at a time. Section 1.1.1 and 1.2.7 of the CPP bylaw, we would like to revise to delete reference to the Orbit secondary plan and replace that with the Orbit Minister's zoning order. So what that means is the MZO and all MZOs in the town are not subject to the CPPS bylaw, but it was our intent that the balance of the secondary plan would form part of the CPPS bylaw, and that's really your TOC3 post-2051 lands. So we've carried forward what was previously generally agricultural zoning into an agricultural precinct. So that's the first exception, technical revision that we'd like to make. The second, section 10.25.1, we just want to delete the exception. It was pointed out by a consultant. It's redundant, and so if we don't need a site-specific exception, we're comfortable recommending to delete it. The next, there was a project considered by this council a number of years ago before the CPPS was in effect. It was a zoning bylaw amendment in Stroud. However, the exceptions were inadvertently not fully carried forward. So we're looking that site-specific RT 33 be amended to include what was previously approved in the zoning bylaw. And that those are as well for the CV7 from the previous zoning bylaw to be reflected in the commercial zoning that was previously approved by council. Table 8.2, we're looking to add a note, so note 3, that clarifies that while we maintain our ancillary retail stores being limited to a maximum of 10% of the total gross floor area, that we add a note that basically says that that could be amended with planning justification up to 49%. And so those are it's listed there, those are the technical amendments. Those all come from feedback that we received by various landowners or consultants on behalf of their clients through this process, and staff are supportive, should council be, to make those technical revisions as part of the final bylaw.
Further questions? Councillor Ices, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Saunders.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I sent an email to Director Lee, and I have the answer, but I just want to bring it out so the public can get the answer to this one. In the CPP, is there a condition for data centers to come before council each time? I ask this because if they are in the parameters of giving auto approval, how do we protect the area residents from the water and power usages and potential cost increases to them?
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. Through to Councillor Saunders. So the response that I did provide to the councillor is that data centers are not defined in the proposed CPP bylaw, and they're not identified as a permitted use in any of the precincts. And so any consideration for a data center would require an amendment to the CPP bylaw and would be subject to a public process.
Thank you. Councillor Drotch.
Thanks, Your Worship. I've had some residents ask about the role of Committee of Adjustment. With this new CPPS bylaw, does that change in any way, or is it still the same format?
Manager Corrett.
Through Mayor Dolan to Councillor Drotch, so there still will be the need for Committee of Adjustment, in particular for things like land divisions, severances, easements, conveyances. However, where the CPPS applies, there would no longer be sort of the minor variance or foretest process by committee. So you would likely see less agenda items on Committee of Adjustment, as minor variances would either be a staff delegated Class 2 permit or a council decision of a Class 3 permit. So there will still be a Committee of Adjustment, but we would anticipate as this goes townwide, the agendas would be, but it wouldn't have variances.
Thanks for that, but there wouldn't be a need to eliminate the Committee of Adjustment altogether.
That's correct.
Other questions and comments on the CPPS bylaw? So I just want to check with the mover and the seconder because of the amendment and the housekeeping issues there to make sure that they were still good with those. Okay, I'm getting nods. So we'll call the vote. All those in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Next is Councillor Richardson and C3.
Yes, my seconder will be Deputy Mayor Fowler. I just really wanted to just comment, listening to the residents speak again. My concern is the mixed use close to the school. I do appreciate that. I feel like you guys listened to the residents and lowered the height, and that you moved it so the parking is in behind. So I'm hoping that that will result in less families using it as a park and ride, like a kiss and ride. Because my fear is that it will become the same thing that the plaza for where Domino's and St. Louis is in relation to Alcona Glen. That's my big fear, is that that's going to happen. But I hope that by moving that building, that's going to deter some families. So I do appreciate that, and that was really that's my comment there.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a few questions. There was mention of a traffic study done in the reports. At what time of the year was it done? Was it done during a school year, or was it done during the summer when the children were not in school?
Manager Correa or Director Lee?
Mayor Dolan, we're just trying to confirm. We'll pull up the traffic study to confirm.
Thank you. Did you want to go on with another question then?
Yes. In regards to the construction period, I know that once the construction is complete, it will be a non-issue, but during the time of the construction between 8 and 9 and 3 and 4, are there mitigating measures put into place for the people who walk past the construction site? Is there a safety? Are there going to be gates? How are they going to manage this during those specific hours? Because we have, you know, how children tend to wander and scoot off. So, and then last but not least, I don't believe I saw a shadow study. Is there a shadow study in the report regarding the 3-story building?
Manager Correa?
Through Mayor Dolan to Deputy Mayor, I'll start. So there was not a shadow study prepared. However, they did add a requirement for a 45-degree angular plane, as well as decreasing the proposed height from what was brought forward at the public meeting, 24 meters for the commercial plaza down to 15, so a 3-story product. And just the earlier question, the traffic counts were completed in September of last year. And sorry, the first question I forgot, sorry.
I was just more of a construction site question because the construction is going to be happening during the time. What are the mitigating factors being put into play during the time the children walk to and from the school, because they will be very close to that area?
Right, so should council approve the CPPS amendment, which is really that zoning bylaw type of stage, there is still the need for red line conditions to the draft plan and detailed design. I do know the traffic study does point to safety measures, including a 4-way stop being contemplated at the, bear with me, at the intersection of Quarry Drive and where it meets up with the new road being proposed. So there, and as well, both engineering and the school board have flagged the need for further detailed design around safe pedestrian access and crosswalks, kind of keeping in mind that the TIS, the traffic study, did contemplate the fact that the Lake Simcoe Public School is directly across the street. So there is further, should the CPPS amendment be approved, there is further detailed design through that red line to the draft plan that would answer questions around what's required, as well as anything specific to construction.
Thank you. And I had a question about was brought up in open forum, the landscaping, the garbage, snow storage, that type of thing, which is typically done in site plan. And site plan is delegated to staff. So can you address those things, Manager Correa? Certainly, thank you. Through you, Mayor Dolan. So at the public meeting that was held last November, there was a 1-meter landscape strip proposed that has subsequently been increased to 3 meters. So as part of the detailed design, that site plan component of the CPPS approval specific to that commercial block, they would be required to submit landscape plans. We'd be encouraging sort of mature trees and the ability to buffer within that 3 meters the abutting residential with that commercial block, and things like garbage location, snow storage would all be part of a more detailed site planning process specifically for that commercial block, which would be a future application that has not been made to date. Thank you. And also headlights from cars was another one. So that would also be addressed in the site plan? Through you, Mayor Dolan, yes, and we would require both, not only the landscape strip, but privacy fencing, which would alleviate some of the headlight concerns. And although it's conceptual at this point and subject to them coming in with a more detailed plan, the way they've situated is that most of the residential parking, rather than the in and out commercial parking, would be closer to the existing residences, with the commercial parking closer to the newer development and where the building is sited. So yeah, all of that would be looked at in detail through detailed design. Thank you. Councillor Drodge?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just to confirm, by lowering their height from 4 stories to 3 stories, that puts them right into the CPP bylaw, right? There's no variance?
That's correct.
Seeing no other questions or comments, all in favor of the recommendation? Those opposed? 1 opposed, that's carried. Next is C8, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. My seconder is Councillor Constantine. I'm going through the report, and there was 2 items that kind of popped out. On page 4, the building permit support operating budget, it says that the equal transfer to or from reserves, they took 1.425 million out of reserves, even though it hasn't reached its full capacity. If there are no permits being issued, can I get an explanation of where the funds are being allocated?
Treasurer Webb. Through you, Mayor Dolan, to the Deputy Mayor. In terms of the transfer from reserves, so how the building inspection service area works is that the revenues, building revenues, pay for building-related expenditures. And so should there be a shortfall in building-related revenues, we do have a reserve, a stabilization reserve that we pull from to cover the expenditures that we've incurred. So what the report is indicating to the end of June, we had $256,000 in permit revenue. We had expenditures of almost $1.7 million. There's a difference there, a shortfall, and so that money would be pulled from the reserve. However, this is, just 6 months into the year, so, it won't be till the end of the year until we see those final results to understand, exactly how the year unfolded and what amount we will need to pull out of the reserve.
Thank you. And the second one is table 4. I'm trying to make the math here. Significant projects included in the 2026 planned spend. Under Parks 374, Innisfil Beach Park, implement Innisfil Beach Park Master Plan, there's a total planned spend of $4.25 million. We received from the OLG a certain check, which 5.7 will be going to, meaning that there's a shortfall of $2.35 million in the math here. I'm wondering, where is that 2.35 coming from if it's not included on the significant projects for planned spending or the OLG?
Treasurer Webb. Through you, Mayor Dolan, to Deputy Fowler. The difference there, this particular table is indicating the planned spend, the significant projects that we plan to spend in 2026. So that is, for each project, when we approve a capital project, many times it's over multi-years. So potentially when we're referring to the OLG money that is funding Innisfil Beach Park development, that's likely to occur over a number of years because that's a multi-year project. This particular table is simply referring to what we plan to spend in 2026.
If I may ask then, if the projected cost is that and the OLG is added to it, we're being told is $12.3 million allocated to it. And we found that 5.7 comes from OLG and 4.25 is coming from the spend. Is there something that happened, that a change that would add the extra 2.35 million? Where would that fall under? Like, what would be the cause that it would either be increased or is it just, I'm just looking to find out how the cost increased by the additional 2.35 over the expected spend.
I'm, through you, Mayor Dolan, to Deputy Mayor Fowler. I'm not completely sure I'm following what you're referring to. For each capital project, that's approved, we have an approved capital project, there's funding sources for that particular project. So in the case of Innisfil Beach Park, if, a portion is funded from ARS and a portion may be funded from the Capital Reserve Fund. How it's funded, we would only change how we fund it. Like if there is an over expenditure, that would come to council and through a staff report. I'm sorry if I'm not understanding the question, so perhaps if you could.
Okay, I apologize. I I'm not trying to throw anybody off here, but we have in public media an acknowledgement that the first phase is 12.3 million in upgrades to the park during the first phase. Of that 12.3, 5.7 came from OLG. On the sheet under table 4, it says under significant projects, Innisfil Beach Park, implementation of the master plan, $4.25 million. So we've added the $4.25 million plus the 5.7, and I'm finding that it doesn't add up to $12.3 million. So I'm just asking for clarification. Is it because there was something happened during the process, or am I misunderstanding?
Treasurer Webb.
Through you, Mayor Dolan, to the Deputy Mayor. So if the total project, as you indicated, and I don't have these numbers in front of me, but if you're saying it's $12 million, what we're saying in Table 4 is of those $12 million, we plan to spend $4.2 million. Then if we look at, in terms of the publication or the notice about how much money was being used, that $5 million being used from ARS for Innisfil Beach Park project, so $5 million of ARS money is being used to fund the total project of $12 million. So that's speaking about the total project. This table is simply speaking to, of that $12 million, how much are we planning to spend in 2026? And that $4.2 million that we're planning to spend, a portion of it will come from ARS, and a portion of it presumably is coming from Capital Reserve Fund. I don't have that in front of me, but it'll be a combination, most likely, of those two funding sources.
That's what I was looking to hear.
Oh, sorry, I am missing a funding source here. Most likely, there's Parks DCs here as well.
And keeping in mind, it's like phases and years don't always match up. So this is 2026.
I fully understand it's 2026. I understand that, and when we speak of you're saying the phases don't align, so it won't be, phase 1 can go to 2027 as well. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Or 2025. Councillor Waters?
Thank you, Your Worship. Back to the building reserve. How big is the building reserve?
Through Mayor Dolan to Councillor Waters. If you look on page 10, table number 7, we do indicate there the balance in the building reserve. We refer to it as the inspection stabilization reserve. And you can see there at the end of 2025, it had a balance of $4.5 million. At this point in time, we're projecting, without knowing how the rest of the year is going to unfold, approximately $3.3 million remaining in that reserve.
Thank you. Just kind of speculating, considering what the construction has been like and what it may be like for the next few years, do you get worried that that reserve could be depleted because we have a significant withdrawal this year to balance that budget? So is there a concern that down the road, if this doesn't improve, that reserve could be in trouble?
Through you, Mayor Dolan, to Councillor Waters. Yes, I mean, that's certainly something that we'll review. So as part of the 2027-2028 budget build, departments we're building those operating budgets. We are forecasting out what those reserve and reserve fund balances are, including the inspection stabilization reserve. So it's certainly something that we'll pay attention to. And council will receive information on that through the 2027-2028 budget.
Thank you.
Other questions on the Q2 operating and finance update? Seeing none, all those in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? That is carried. I think that was all the items that were pulled, so we'll now go to our rise recommendation, please. Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Ices. All those in favor? That is carried. Then we have our adoption of the recommendations from Committee of the Whole, please. Moved by Deputy Fowler, seconded by Councillor Zanella. All those in favor? Any contrary? Seeing none, we'll go to our notice of motion. And this was Councillor Waters. Notice was given back in July, and it's your motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. I brought this forward just because of a few residents in an area of Ward 4 get flooded out on a regular basis. And this year, because of the exceptional lake levels, they had trouble accessing parts of their homes, and they requested sandbags from Innisfil. Considering where our community gets flooded out quite a bit, I was quite surprised to hear that we don't have a sandbag program in Innisfil. And so the residents were told to go to Home Hardware, buy their own bags, and get their own sand, which I thought, for people who are struggling with flooding, was a big request. So they found a workaround. They went to the city of Barrie and went to one of their free depots, took their bags. There was no one there, helped themselves, and were able to find enough sandbags to solve the problem. I thought, well, and I asked staff why we didn't have one. It was just operational costs. And I says, well, Barrie seems to have found a way that doesn't seem to cost that much money. So I'm just asking for staff be directed to look into a sandbag program, an inexpensive sandbag program, so that those residents who are either in Guildford or Lefroy or Ward 4, have a place to go and don't have to go to Barrie, because I'm sure if the mayor found out that we were sending our... Yeah. Okay. Fred Drodge is going to, Councillor Drodge is going to second it. I'm just asking that staff take a look into several models, look at various municipalities to see what a modest sandbag program would cost, and whether or not we can implement one to help our own residents out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from staff on that one? Any further direction needed? Okay. Any comments from the rest of council? Seeing none, all those in favor of the recommendation? That is carried. Next is item 9.2, and I'd be looking for a seconder. Actually, if you want to move me, if somebody would like to move this, and I could second it, therefore I don't have to go through all the procedural gymnastics of leaving the chair. Councillor Richardson, thank you. So this is just a chance to relook at our policies as they are right now, as they pertain to events on town lands. We get asked all the time to have major events in different parts of the town. We try, of course, try to balance that. If there's a major event at the Innisfil Recreation Complex, it can impact the doctor's office there, the blood labs, all of that type of stuff as far as parking is concerned. Same with Innisfil Beach Park. But we've been asked so often, I figured it was time just to have a relook at our policy to see if it fits in with our needs and wants of our residents, because we haven't looked at it in a while. Any questions or comments on this piece? Seeing none, I guess all the work's getting directed to you, Director Bowman. All those in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? That is carried. Next we'll go to, we moved this. This is used to be before we went to our consent agenda. So this is at the beginning of each term, and sometimes consequently in a term. There's many other associations and committees that we are required to be a part of, and each member of council is assigned some to deal with. And so is there any updates on any of these coming forward? Deputy Fowler.
Thank you, Worship. Yesterday at County, there was a large discussion surrounding the orbit and the status. So what's happened now is the province, through the Office of Infrastructure Ontario, has approached the county to help move it forward with an idea. And it's going to take a study that we had to vote on before we went to lame duck status that will probably come back during the next county council. The way it breaks down is very simple. Once Mr. Gershow explained it to me in great detail. We had a good conversation regarding that. Infrastructure Ontario is a subsidiary of the government, the provincial government, and they have something called the Go Station Lending Stream. So what they're looking at doing is loaning $140 million to the county to see if they can build the station and get it underway. Now, the way they would do it under the Go Station lending stream is the county would have repayment terms of up to 40 years, so it's technically a mortgage, with a lower interest rate than it's put out there normally. And the idea being that once it's built, that the developers in the community we would look at something similar to a transit station charge. That would be, every town would have to vote on it and move it forward. But the idea, they're looking at the state to see the applicability of it, if it's feasible. And the transit station charge would be something that would be added to the developers as the building permits were issued. So it wouldn't come off the tax roll, it would come off the shoulders of the developers as they build. And they're talking, the closer you are to the orbit, the idea is how much more you would pay. The further you are away from the transit-oriented community, the less you would pay. Now, the study's going to be turning in January, and there's talk about how much the developer is going to be on the hook for, how much the county is going to be on the hook for. The negotiation is taking place. We haven't committed to anything yet until the study has been returned to county council with an understanding and explanation of how it's going to work. So if all goes according to plan, the first step would be county agreeing to mitigate this and to have the 140 million, or depending on how much, maybe a cap of 80, maybe a cap of 65, depending on how much we can get from the developer for the station. And then once we move forward, we can see about over the 40-year period, every time a new subdivision goes in or a new building goes in, we add the transit station charge to the cost of the developer, and that goes back to the loan to the province. So it's moving it forward. It's not as fast as we want, but at least the discussion is happening and we're not stagnating. So I think that's a good start.
Other comments? Councillor, sure, go ahead, Councillor Waters.
Thank you very much for that update. My question is, originally, the developer was supposed to have the GO station built, and then we were told he wouldn't have it built until, he sold so many units out of the first tower. So it seems to me that county and Simcoe County residents are going to be on the hook for this, maybe for a long period. You're saying we're going to get it back through the charge, but is that charge over the life of the orbit, or is it over the first building? Because that was what the original promise was, is that they would have to have first building done, the first 40-story tower, and the GO station would go ahead, but the developer at all times would be responsible for paying for it. But now it seems that, is it going to be spread over a longer period, over more buildings? And is there a chance that 40 years may not be enough to get our money back?
Deputy Fowler?
The general consensus is that every development, so it could be a subdivision, it could be an 8-story building, along those lines with the developers themselves, when they put in their building permit and the DC charges are laid out, the transit charge is laid on top of the DC charge. So the developer is the one paying for it, not the resident. It is not going on the tax roll. So hypothetically, we have a developer come in and he wants to build at 7th and 10, like around the pumping station we just got. They would be, due to their proximity to the station, they would be getting a higher transit station charge applied to them than somebody who's building out in the employment lands, because they're further away. So the idea being that over a 40-year period, that time, every time something's built, the transit charge gets applied to the developer, not the resident, and that goes back towards the loan that the province is giving the county.
So it seems that the MZO that was going to have, what I'm trying to get at here is that how am I going to explain this? I was originally under the impression that the first tower get built, then the GO station would get built, and that the DCs would be charged on those units in that first tower. But if we're talking now several buildings out from the core of the orbit are going to be paying DC charges or a transit-oriented charge, that it seems that it's going to take longer to recoup that money to the county than it would be if the developer had from square one had paid for his development charges on just the first tower, because the first tower will be done, let's say, in 5 years. The rest of those other buildings aren't going to be done for, could be 30 or 40 years. So I think you're right that the developer is going to pay for it, but I'm just looking to make sure that the county isn't held, if it goes past 40 years in terms, they may not get all their money back in that 40 years. That's what I'm concerned, considering the development environment we're in right now.
Thank you. I'll jump in here and help you. So the report that's coming back to the county will have in it safeguards that will go into, so a bunch of risk mitigation, including they'll be made whole throughout the process. And in turn, county still might vote that down. So we'll see what the background study says. We'll see what the final report with what the county's willing to do for the province. Keeping in mind it was the province of Ontario that asked the county to take this on. So it'll come back to county, and it'll be wrapped around with a bunch of things that protect the county from like overages and overspending and all of that thing. And then the only thing I would say that's maybe and slightly different than what the deputy said is the developer's not paying for it. The people who buy the homes are paying for it. Those are the people who are going to be paying the money for this transit station charge. Councillor Drudge.
Just for some clarification, so I guess Innisfil is a little bit unique because our transit station is connected to an MZO, which is connected to the orbit. I can understand how this might make sense in other municipalities in Simcoe County, but I don't think Innisfil has anything to gain from what we're talking about, because our transit station is attached to an MZO, which is attached to the orbit. So even if you approve DC charges on other developments, our transit station is attached to an MZO that is attached to orbit. I don't think that changes anything for Innisfil.
Yeah, I agree. Councillor, would only change the financing option and who pays for what throughout that. Anyone else have any association committee meetings that they went to that they'd like to report on? Councillor Zanella.
Thank you. I have the South Simcoe Streams, and it's up here on the screen. We're looking for volunteers for August 15th and August 22nd for the planting on the Nottawasaga River. So if anybody is interested in volunteering, please let us know. There's a QR code there that you can scan, and this will also be on our town website. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zanella. Anyone else? Councillor Waters.
I just want to take an opportunity to thank all the people who sat on the Sustainability Committee. It was short-lived. We had some really good discussion. A lot of education went on, and I'm hoping that that we'll see more of their fruits of their labor in the next council when we're all brought back in, when you guys are all brought back in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I just wish you wouldn't be smiling so wide when you say that every time. He gets this Cheshire cat grin on when he talks about not having to deal with next year's budget, not having to deal with next year's, yeah.
Well, I smile a lot, then I look at some of the people singing and then smile more.
So I just wanted to report a bit on the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, which I am a member of the Board of Directors, thanks to Council allowing me to stand. There is an election at this year's annual conference, of which I'm very glad I don't have to play a part in. I was elected back in May as the chair of the Ontario Small Urban Municipal Association, so that automatically gives me a seat on the board of directors for the next 2 years. So I'm excited, we're excited, a number of staff and some council are attending the annual conference, which takes place every year. I think Mayor Gordon up in Midland called it the Super Bowl of conferences for municipalities. It is. They get about 2,500 elected municipal officials from all over Ontario attend every year. The Premier attends, all the opposition members attend, about 26 to 28 different ministers attend. So it's a busy couple of days. Besides the regular educational events that take place, there's also delegation meetings with the different ministries. We asked for 5 this year. We were granted 4. So we'll be meeting with Minister Todd McCarthy. He's the acting Minister of Infrastructure. We'll be meeting with the Solicitor General, Solicitor General Kersner. And that meeting is in partnership with the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury, to talk mostly about police funding and fairness in police funding. We're meeting with Minister Sakaria. Minister Sakaria is the Minister of Transportation, so we want to talk to him about things like the MTO issues that we're dealing with, the 6-line intersection, the hopefully we won't have to talk about the 20th and Innisfil Beach Road, that'll be solved by then, and also Metrolinx in the orbit, so we'll be talking about that. And then we'll also be meeting with Parliamentary Assistant Cazzetto for energy, Minister of Energy and Mines. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to it and reporting back to Council what we learned during this time. So seeing no other committee report outs, we'll go then right to announcements. And I'll go to Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. From Ward 1, this coming weekend, the 14th to the 16th, there's a rock stalk at Sunset Speedway. You can go online and see all that's planned there. There's actually a Ward 1 alumni and a Goldsmith will be performing Sunday afternoon. Check out the farmers market. That's every Thursday still. And on August 22nd, there's a special event happening in Centennial Park, Taste of Culture, where there'll be many different family events there that you can enjoy and look to see a lot of people there. And then on a personal note, on the farm, often emergencies happen, and one happened on our farm this week, and it's from a position of extreme thankfulness for the community that we live in. You've probably seen the smoke yesterday from the field fire that we had next door. It's just so amazing that the town can come and help someone who's in need. And we were in need yesterday, so that the fire department was right there. I wanted to really highlight the neighbors that helped us. Cal Farms and Bowman Farms called, and they dropped everything and came with the tractor and disc to help with the fight the fire. You never know when you need help, and this town came through again in flying colors. So I wanted to just share that with everyone, and a note of thanks. So that's my announcements.
Thank you, Councillor Ices, and we know that the Ices would be right there for the Kells and the Bowmans if they needed to be, so thank you for that. Councillor Constantine, do you have any announcements? None? Councillor Richardson?
So I just wanted to mention, like you had mentioned about the Summer Fun Carnival that happened on Sunday. Thank you to Arav and his mom, Payel, for organizing such a fun event. I was only able to be there for the first part, but I saw the photos. It looked like it was a great time. TD Summer Reading Club is still happening until August 29th. They currently have 490 children participating, and they've read so far 8,863 books this summer, which is pretty great. An author talk coming up on August the 20th, an evening online online with Genevieve Graham. She does historical novels. And also just want to wish good luck to Miss Jenny's Miss Jenny's Dance Studio as they start their season 19. I can't believe it's already been 19 years, and next year we'll get to celebrate 20 with them.
Thank you. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Worship. August 18th, there's music in the park. On Thursday is the Cars Show, and it's returning to the beach, so it's been out of there since all the construction, so it's going to be glad to see them back down there. And just congratulations to the Lions Club for putting on a very successful concert at their grounds. I thank all the members for doing that. I'm sure it was a lot of hard work, so I just thought I want to make a comment to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Zanella. Councillor Saunders.
Friday Harbor, August 29th at the CLVC Pier, they have the ABBA Revisited band. August 23rd, the Lefroy Family Day is at the Legion from 10 to 2. On Thursdays, starting in September, they have competitive darts. This Saturday, all of this is at the Legion from 5 to 7. They have the Bushmen, they're performing. August 22nd, they have Lana Hart, and August 29th, they have the Four Pops. All of that is at the Legion.
Thank you. Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. August 15th, Guildford United Church Community Steak Dinner is happening from 5 to 7 p.m., first come, first serve. It's $30 a person or $10 per kid. On August 21st to August 23rd, Gussapalooza is happening in Cookstown. That's at the Georgian Steam Grounds. And every Tuesday at the Cookstown Library Splash Pad from 10 to 11 a.m., there's a drop-in splash pad story time.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Nothing to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That mostly covers it. I just wanted to quickly say that on the August long weekend, the U16 York Simcoe baseball team, girls baseball team, attended the Ontario Summer Games and brought home the gold medal. So where they were undefeated, taking all 4 games, and congratulations to Ava Silva, Lillian Tucker, Daphne Tucker, and the Bat Girl Iris Tucker, who are all Innisfil residents and also play for the Innisfil Minor Baseball League and are coached by their dads, Joey Silva and Chris Tucker. So we're very proud of the whole team and especially the Innisfil squad. And the only other thing that wasn't covered was that myself and I'm sure the Deputy Mayor are looking forward on August the 27th being invited to the year-end Innisfil soccer event, which is always great every year. And believe it or not, the ESSA Fair, or the Berry Fair, which is held in ESSA at the ESSA Agriplex, starts on August the 27th. And the opening ceremonies we like to attend as there's quite a few Innisfil residents who are on the board of that fair board. So seeing nothing else and nothing from town staff, we'll go right to confirmatory bylaw and adjournment at 9:23 p.m., a lot early than I thought we were going to be out of here. Councillor Drodge and Councillor Richardson, all those in favor? That is carried. Our next meeting is early September. I think September, I want to say 8th, is 9th, September 9th. So we'll see you all then and make the best of the rest of summer. Thanks, everyone, and have a good night. Thanks for those joining online.